Nathan, you're back, mate.
I am, mate, I am.
How you been?
I've been good.
That's the way.
Good, I've been busy building this big truck.
It's a little bit bigger, isn't it?
It's a monster truck, eh? It's an absolute ripper. So I sold the 79 series and the power system in that thing never let me down, so back for round 2.
Well, we can certainly help you with that. I reckon we get a big Aussie Expedition in here, since you've got the space to work with it. Let's show you what it's all about and then get it installed.
All right.
Now this has been a long overdue video, but let's talk about our Generation 1 Aussie Expedition. They're obviously geared directly for expedition trucks, but of course they work in standard canopies as well. It's a heck of a lot of power, and the idea of the whole system is to simplify a very large Victron installation. We've got ourselves a 12-3000 multi-plus inverter charger. That's obviously 3 kVA of output, so it lets you run basically any appliance that you could realistically want in a vehicle. Then you've got a 120 amp battery charger inside of it, and a transfer switch. So if you plug into shore power or mains or a caravan park or wherever you've got 240, what it'll do is when you plug in, it'll charge your batteries and it'll run all of your loads directly. So that's all handled by this guy here. Then we've got ourselves a 50 amp Victron solar controller, good for 700 watts of solar input, perfect for trucks where you can have multiple panels on the roof. Then we have ourselves dual 24 to 12 30 amp DC to DC chargers. So that's 60 amps of alternator charging, about 720 watts continuous. Once they've reached their thermal capacity, they can actually charge more quickly than that when they're cool, but basically covers all 3 main factors of charging in an off-grid system, plus has a nice big inverter to let you use all that power you're charging with. Now, if you come around to the front, what we've got is we have the nice big Victron 7-inch touchscreen display, and that's so you can see what's going on with all your equipment in there. We've obviously connected that so you can see what your alternator's doing, your solar's doing, what your inverter's up to, 240's coming in, all that sort of stuff. Coming down a little bit, we have our 6 20 amp DC switches. So that's for all of your lighting, your pump, maybe a relay to control your compressor, all that sort of stuff. You can put all those switches there. You've got 20 amps across the top, 20 amps across the bottom, and each switch individually is rated for 20 amps as well. So plenty of decent switching current there. Obviously you can run some fairly high current loads off a 20 amp switch. Then you've got your 240 volt input and output. So input breaker, output breaker. Obviously that covers all your 240 volt requirements and allows us to put this 240 volt GPO on the front as well. And of course, if you get your Sparky in, he can add additional power points around the canopy, but this lets you run just one straight off the front. You don't need to get your electrician in to wire that up for you. We've got a fan on the front, and we actually have a fan on the lid as well. And the idea of that is you can mount a fridge right up against this fella, and that fan will kick in once the internal temperature rises and make sure it keeps all of those Victron components cool. Then we have a USB-C and a USB-A port here to allow you to charge up all your miscellaneous tablets, iPads, laptops, that sort of stuff. And a cigarette socket as well, just for any of your miscellaneous camp accessories. Now let's take a look around the back. Obviously you can see that second DC-DC charger. Then we have our 6 Anderson plugs here. So what we have is 2 inputs for our starter battery. And the idea there is instead of running one large Anderson plug, it lets you use standard tools. So especially if you're doing a DIY install, it lets you do regular crimp connectors, you have regular Anderson plugs, makes it really easy. And of course, if you're on the road, you need to swap it out, replace it, whatever, it's a fairly easy plug to get a hold of. You've got one for each DC-DC charger, which also helps with synchronization when it comes to voltage drop and things like that. Long story short, that's your starter battery input. The blue one, that there is your solar panel input. So you can hook up all your solar panels, put them in there. Being that it's a Victron solar controller, series, parallel, it's all possible. Obviously, depending on your layout, you'll have to plan it out, but that there is for all your solar. And then we have the 3 grey Anderson plugs. Now we've got that on a 60 amp MIDI fuse for the 3 of them. So they're all input and output. So portable solar panels, fridges, freezers, heck, you could even run probably a small compressor. As long as it doesn't go over 60 amps combined, you're good to go through there. Then we've left this nice big cutout, and the purpose of that is your 2 95mm squared battery cables, which is what you need to feed this power system, obviously. But the other thing it allows you to do is if you have some specific requirement or high current load that you can't use with all these sort of plugs and accessories we've wired in, it gives you an area to feed that sort of stuff in. So the 6 switches on the front, you can run all them out the back. If you had a big compressor that needs to be wired directly off the internal fuse block that we've cabled up, you can come straight in here. All sorts of things are made possible by leaving this opening at the back. A massive power system needs a massive battery. So what we've got is a Shervey 12 volt, 600 amp hour lithium battery. This should give Nathan stacks of power when he's out and about. So what I'll do now is I'll hand it off to the Solar and Sat team and they can get this all installed. Aussie goes there, battery goes behind it.
Yeah, you will be able to do it in one sheet.
All the cabling in here is a bit corroded, a bit rough, a lot of it's sort of coming apart. I'm going to cut off all the connectors and crimps on there and just re-terminate them just to make sure it's all safe.
DC-DC will come in
Might even be best to go sort of below it, so you don't have cables coming all the way up here.
Yep.
To work on the Unimog, you must become one with the Unimog.
Got the cable on there, Nate? Okay. And then just keep it along there.
That one there will be common, that'll be out. Work. This is my favourite thing about the whole build by Starlink. And then I'll just probably use a little bit of black T-Rex. The right size spell now, or sure.
4, I guess.
Yeah, going that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I've even got Nathan on to talk about these wiring up all the fake toolboxes and everything.
I think Rick's going to send me an invoice when he sees how many of these I used.
Yeah.
It's 1 of 4.
You guys have done this before, eh?
We're just mounting the Starlink. You're the man, hey Dan.
You can see exactly what's coming in off the DC-DC charges through the alternator.
How'd you enjoy being an apprentice for 2 days?
Oh, mate, it was good fun. It was a pleasure to be a part of, to see your crew working, and yeah,
Good to hear.
It's systematic. Yeah, it was cool.
Hopefully it didn't give you too much trouble.
No, I had a good time. Yeah, so thank you.
That's good. What do you actually think of fitting up that Aussie Expedition anyway? They're obviously a DIY sort of a board. So.
Yeah, well, that's the beauty of these things, isn't it? That like you can get these all around Australia, right?
Yes, you certainly can.
And different sizes.
Yep, so all sorts of different sizes. This is by far our most popular. We move more of this than every other size put together.
Okay.
Obviously mostly for trucks, but yeah, we send them all the way over to WA.
Yeah, right.
Yep.
Wow, that's cool. And yeah, I saw you the simplicity of it. Like once you tidied up my starter battery box, to run that power, and it's just an Anderson plug in the back of this. Well, we have duals, but
Yeah, you got 2, so there's 2 Anderson plugs, but for the most part, yeah, you feed in your starter battery power, your solar goes in, and then you connect your lithium battery with your big cables, and that's about it. Really.
plug and play.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yours is obviously a bit more because we wired up all the
That's
switching
right.
and stuff.
Yeah.
And then obviously the starter battery, I hooked up all your winches and various bits and bobs in there. But yeah, that's basically all there is to it.
Yeah. Yeah, so mine was a bit more complicated. Like what's behind the wall, there's a lot going on, but that's, for what I do up north. And, we've run to the back, we've got the compressor and the water pump and...
That's it, ready for the rooftop tent.
Yeah, rooftop tent, the
Solar provision, Starlink conversion.
The Starlink was really impressive.
That's cool,
That was
eh?
cool.
Yeah. Being the Gen 2, we cut it apart, put it in its own mount and everything. It actually ends up being more robust and rugged than the Gen 3 or the Mini because it's got that full mount around it. So if you brush against, it could be branches, trees, whatever, it'll be fine. And then you got that rear light and the 2 doors and the centre door, so there's bits and bobs everywhere on this one.
Yeah.
But I think she's come out good, and that big headboard there, as much as this is a DIY sort of a system, being able to router out the headboard so it's millimetre perfect is definitely nicer than cutting it by hand.
Yeah, well that's the benefit of here with your shed, all these tools, the routers and the laser cutters and folders, it's impressive, it's really cool. And how tidy it is, like all the wires that are behind that board, and now you look at it now and it looks quite simple, but there's a lot going on in there.
That's it, yeah, you can access all your connections for servicing, so there's no connections behind it. You take that front lid off and obviously everything's in the box, but the cabling itself all runs behind that board, and obviously that just protects it for one, gives you something to build off, and makes it look really cool.
Yeah. Well, now it's up to me to fit the drawers and everything in here, and I don't want to cover it up because it looks so good.
Yeah, that's it. Well, it's all on you now. Cables are ran, power system's powered, so now you've got to work out the rest, mate.
Yeah.
So
one of the cool things is the fridge. So I'm going to go a big tall fridge here and upright, and then a freezer drawer on the other side.
Yep.
And I noticed this just has Anderson ports on the back.
Yep.
I can just plug straight in.
Plug them straight in, mate. And then even if you plugged out of those Anderson plugs and ran them to other spots, you could do that if you needed to. So that's the nice thing. You got that flexibility there. And if you did want to hardwire off it, like I said, you just take that front lid off and you can cable straight out of that input access port. So anything that you think of later on that you didn't consider for us to wire now, you can just come straight out of the back of that box. Makes it really easy to work on in future and future-proof and whatnot. So So spec-wise, it's fairly similar to your 79 really. It's got a little bit more alternator charging. Obviously you're going to fit more solar on the roof, so we haven't done that.
Yes.
That's your job. The cables ran.
They're coming home with me.
Yeah, that's it. Load them in there, and once you've got the tent, you'll work it out, I think.
Okay, yeah.
3 130s is the plan. So Adam looked up your tent. and he reckons 3 of them will go just fine.
Well, that's another third of what I had on the 79.
Yeah, well, 50% extra, isn't it? 260 to 390, so 50% more solar, and you've got double the battery capacity, and you've gone from 50 amps a volt now to charging up to 60. So she's had a healthy little boost across the board, I would say.
Like we said, big truck, big power. So it's a 600 amp hour battery. Now run me through, because you spoke to me about weights, sizing, and that kind of thing.
55 kilos for that battery. Now, if you were to do that with lead, now assuming 50% depth of discharge on lead batteries, you would need, what's that, 1200 amp hour to match it, which that'd have to weigh like 350 kilos probably.
It's crazy, hey?
Now, although you probably could carry that.
Yeah, I could, yeah.
Saving 300 kilos though is nothing to sneeze at, and that's what that battery allows you to do. And of course, 5-year warranty. The way you're going to use it, I'd hope it'd last you at least 10, 15, 20 years, depending on how hard you flog it. So it's ready to roll for that. And then I guess the other thing in coming in here as well is we've been able to fit that additional 240 volt power point for you, and we've done that other circuit for your Sparky to hook up your kitchen when you go to do that as well. Because you'll be doing induction cooking as well.
I will. I'm going to do induction cooking down here in the kitchen, and the PowerPoint on the other side. You know, for I'm in the bush all the time filming, so GoPros, laptops, all the camera gear, the drone, and that. 240
volt power is just one of those things that's super handy to have access to.
Yeah.
And I think having the kitchen down here is a good idea, mate, because I don't think I'm very short, but that's a high base.
It's not going to work, is it?
By the time your fridge hinges somewhere up here. Yep. No, I think it'll be a weapon of a build, mate. Mate, all done.
That it?
Yep, that's it.
All right, great. All right, well, thank you very much once again.
No dramas at all. It was a pleasure.
Yep, as always.
Enjoy
Big drive home.
80 k's an hour, mate.
Yeah. All right, mate. See you in the bush.
See you in the bush.